Good. So welcome. So happy to be with you. Let's just take a moment just to put our hands on our hearts and just acknowledge that this time is all for you. It's all for you. It's all about you. It's part of this journey from our head to our hearts, part of this quantum leap from who we think we are to who we truly are. And that we're in this together. This is a dynamic, alive conversation, opening, exploration. We don't know what's going to happen, and we're stepping into, I love the ocean analogy. We're stepping into this ocean of the unknown together in a spirit of discovery, wonder, curiosity. Anything you'd like to say to start out with, Miss Polly?
No, it's exciting, this time that I have with you all every other week, and I really appreciate the interaction and the light that comes on out of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to start by just acknowledging that in our community here, and I wrote about this in the newsletter that Kelly's about to put out, or has just put out, or is coming out today, that our community here has been infused with Paul Levy's work, Levy's work. I have a friend who said it could be either.
He says Levy.
All right. Paul Levy's work. And it's the book Quantum Revelation. How many of you have connected to that? Yeah. Okay, great. I highly recommend it. It's such an incredible way of looking at the world and understanding the world through quantum physics. He brings together the quantum and the spiritual in this incredible way that is a hand in glove with Pali's work and the 6 steps and the awakening principles that we're playing with. And he's he's been a Tibetan Buddhist practitioner for
30 years.
Yeah.
More. Yeah.
More. And he had what the doctors called a mental breakdown. And he didn't think he was crazy. He thought everybody around him was crazy. And what he now understands is that he had a quantum leap. He went through a quantum shift. He went through a portal, and he understood what we would call awakening.
Right.
And yeah, and the work he's doing is not so dissimilar from the work we're doing. We had him come to a Zoom group yesterday, and I'm putting that in the newsletter if you want to watch it, just a kind of informal chat with him. But one of the things he's talking about is gathering in groups and basically deconditioning. In our language, we would call it deconditioning, working your triggers, coming back to that place where you're the mirror, you're clear. So for us, I'm just framing it that way, that what we're about is big. It's big personally, it's big collectively, it's big in the time frame that we're in right now with the human design shifts that we have been prophesized and we can kind of see are happening, with AI coming in and the government crumbling in the way it's crumbling, at least here in the US. So yeah, I just want to name that there's another, what's beautiful, I think, with him is that he comes from a non-religious place around it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pragmatic, but it's trippy. It's like drug trippy. It's like, OMG. He's like, wow.
In the book, there's actually the name of one of the latter chapters is Quantum Physics as a Spiritual Path.
Yeah.
And it's the reason that that's true is because what is true here, we've always made the distinction between our spiritual life and our mundane or ordinary life, but the reality is it's one thing, and how to integrate our understanding of that so that we live from the most enlightened, inspired, awake, aware place. And in that, we create an amazing experience of life based in the way it actually works. What a concept.
It's very pragmatic.
Very.
So when Polly talks about, leaving Eden, leaving the head, I mean, leaving the heart and going to the head, going to the rational analytic, how I see the quantum is it's actually using the mind in a certain way to go out of the rational analytic into that place of it just changes the barriers and the boundaries and the pictures. And when I look at a human design chart, that's what happens to me. I feel like, who is this person? And I feel all the dance of that person in a quantum kind of way. So I think there's an opportunity for us here to tap into something and tap into how we are with human design from a quantum perspective and bring that. It's so interesting that I started studying with Karen Curry
I
Parker.
was just thinking.
And she at some point she started calling her work quantum human design. I think maybe it's the same, but it feels different for me what we're talking about here. So I want to invite us all. I was actually in a miracle coaching group this morning, looking at my intention, and my intention was, or my theme for the year is quantum awakening. That's my theme. I didn't tell you that.
All right.
But as I was doing this process around it, I got the words quantum kissed, like kissed by the quantum. And I just love that. Like, as we approach our human design, as we approach who we are, can we let ourselves be kissed into the next quantum shift? Can we let ourselves break out of the boundaries and the confines and the constraints we've put ourselves in through our early childhood conclusions,
Right.
through our view, right? We're going back and shifting the view, the simplest, the lens, right? The simplest way to think about that book, Quantum Revelations, is as viewed, so appears. How we see things, that's how the world shows up for us. How we see things through that early childhood lens, through that early childhood conclusion, we're going to be looking for that in the world and making sure we validate that and create it. Everybody with me so far? We good? So if we have a story about who we are and we look at our human design, we're going to use our human design to reify that story. I'm not good enough. I look at my open G. I don't, anybody can do that. You're going to be seeing through the lens. So there's this interesting thing where we're kind of making the space for people to have a new way of seeing, at the same time inviting people to look back and undo the way they are seeing. Am I making sense? And all right. So we're in this exploration. Anything else you want to say there?
No, that's good.
Okay. We're in this exploration this month of the planets. And there is a planetary configuration tonight where 7 planets, you should be able to see 7 planets in the sky. Again, there was a Washington Post article on this morning, and I sent Kelly the picture of that, so that will come out in the newsletter of those planets. But what I want to invite us to do is enter into a relationship with the planets that is not from our rational analytic, right? There are many traditions, and Vedic astrology is one of them, Hinduism is one of them, where you actually propitiate the planets. You do pujas to the planets. You understand that the planets are impacting you and influencing you, and you're in relationship to them. So I want to invite all of us to think of these planets as, not separate from us, but to begin to develop a relationship with them and start to open to a connection to them.
That's interesting. In the early 90s, I practiced astrology professionally. And the name of the astrology approach I took, I called it the sky within. And that's what you're pointing
That is
to.
exactly what I'm pointing
It's
to.
like, how is that experienced in me in the sense of who I am in regard to that? Because that everything is within. That's what we know, right?
And that's the quantum.
Exactly.
That is the quantum, and that is the awakening into oneness. There is no separation, right?
Yeah.
So we see the planets, but they're not separate from us. And in fact, what we see is so many years away that we're not even seeing what's actually there. I mean,
If there is space-time.
if there is space.
No problem there, right?
We can really trip out, you guys.
Trippy.
Let's take that Kool-Aid, huh?
That's right.
So what I thought we could do, and I didn't think ahead myself, so Polly and I won't have the oils for it, but I thought we could just begin by, actually, before I even go there, I want to acknowledge that we're in the 3740. Some of you were with Barbara yesterday. We're in that planetary relationship with the sun and the earth in the 3740. And it's so fascinating to me that last week we were in the 55, right? Which is that dragonfly transformation. And now we're in the 3740. That's the thing that's going to be dismantled in 2027, in this 2027 change. So it's just very interesting how this is playing out to me. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. So where do we start? Let's start with the 30. Should we start with the transits or the personal planets with the sun?
The transits.
Yeah. So if you have your sun oil, go ahead and take your sun oil, conscious sun. And Marco, I think, has a question in the chat about conscious and unconscious. And I think I said this in the Q&A. The planets aren't actually conscious or unconscious. Right? We can't think of them quite like that. We label them that way. But it's the time and space, their impact on us in the gates that they're in. That is that that influence that has a more a different let's see, how do I say this? If you think about the time of your birth, it's like your body hits air in the story of the body, right? Your body hits air, and that the neutrino stream from the planets are hitting your physical body. They're hitting they're not hitting isn't quite the right word. They're activating, they're becoming part of your physical body. I don't have the language here, guys.
Like your sun sign in astrology.
Yeah, like your sun sign in astrology. And that 3 months prior, it's coming down through your mother's womb into your, I was going to say corpse.
Your corpus.
Into your corpus. Into your corpus, and penetrating and activating from a time prior to air. If you think of the dragonfly, right? Under the water, in the air. It's like this is the impact under the water, underneath, hidden.
Within the water.
Yeah. Within the water.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. All right. So take your sun oil and just bring that to your heart. We don't have those ones. Just bring that to your heart and tap into the sun and the glory and the magnificence of the sun and the gift it gives us by its rays, its warmth, its light. Just feel the magnificence of the sun, the omnipresence, even in the nighttime. We know the sun is still part of our still impacting our solar system. And just notice as you bring that sun gate, that sun oil to your heart, or just put your hand on your heart and feel the sun in your heart. So what do you notice in your body? What are you aware of? And just invite, ask for this sun to be to reveal itself, to be connected to it, whatever words you would have to begin to develop a relationship with it, a copacetic, a partnership, a connection.
Mhm.
And now take the gate 37 oil and bring that to your heart. Mm-hmm. And just hold that 37. You could put the sun with it if you wanted. Just hold that 37 and just feel the energy of friendship and harmony and connection.
It's the life force.
The life force, yeah. Feel the sun like showering through, transmitting that gate 37 to the planet. And if you have gate 37 in your chart, feel those light rays touching that place in your chart. If that's open in your chart, feel how you're receiving and drinking in, or like being in the presence of the majesty of that. And putting that down and taking the earth oil, just bringing that to your heart and just inviting the connection to the earth and the ground of the earth and the support of the earth and the nurturing that comes from the earth. Just notice what happens in your body as you tap into the earth. What is your relationship to the earth? Are you aware of it? Are you aware of the constant support? Can you allow yourself to feel and be supported by the earth? And then take that gate 40 oil and bring that to your heart with that earth oil and just feel the support. This is tribal energy, right? The support, the power of stepping away from the tribe, the power of including yourself so that you are not solely a function for the tribe. This gate of loneliness, aloneness, this gate of restoration, taking time to take care of, to fill, to refill, to recharge, so that you're ready to go back out. So feel that sun pouring down, saying, connect, be friends, you know, support the tribe. And then feel that earth saying, yeah, and, I'm here too. I'm part of the tribe, and my needs are part of these tribal needs too. And now just put the 3470 aside for a moment and take out your sun gate. The sun is in what gate in your chart? Conscious sun, the time you were born. Where was the sun? Taking a moment just to feel you as a newborn coming out and feeling the air and knowing that the sun is permeating you, this energy. It's like you're being bathed in this energy. You're being infused. You're becoming, it's like a baby sun in you or a big sun in you. It's like you're a clone or a, I don't know the word there, but that you become the sun of that energy. So you've taken a little piece of the sun and now it's in your heart and you're walking around with the constant transmission of this energy. And then take your conscious earth gate or think about it if you don't have the oil and feel the earth welling up with this energy, welling up with that gate, the energy of that gate. Feel it there constantly as a support for you, the energy of that gate, that stream of whether it's a tribal, an individual, collective, whether it's what center it's coming from. It's coming off an open center or a defined center. Feel the earth and that gate and the relationship to this, to the I was going to say spleen, which is my gate, my center. The center that is feeding that gate, is connected to that gate. Feel that dynamic combination. And now let's clear the screen for a moment and imagine like we're going back to, okay, so this is how it was in that moment of birth. And then we started living our lives and we started interacting with the world and we started, maybe your son was not received or the energy of your gate, maybe your son is in gate 51 and you're shocking people and you're getting pushback for it, or maybe that energy that you're bringing isn't welcomed and you draw a conclusion about yourself. Just taking a moment to see, is there a way to use your sun gates energy to kind of scan and see, is there a trigger here? Is there a way that I don't feel good about this energy, or it doesn't have its full life? I don't know what words you would say, Polly, here.
Well, ease of expression, if that was curtailed.
The ease of the expression of that
Right.
was curtailed, not allowed,
right. And the impact back to you to all of us from that limitation would begin to shut us down. And now it's creating the lens through which we perceive reality.
So here's how I see it, and tell me if this fits
Yeah.
for you. So here we are, this incredible light shining this incredible energy that is needed for the planet, each one of us, right? What we're bringing is what's needed for the planet. And somehow it's not okay. Something is not okay. Something is not okay with our sun energy. Just checking to see, does anything come up with that for you? Is there a judgment, a self-judgment, uh, a judgment from someone else? I thought we could just take a moment, if anybody wants to share your thoughts. We learn from each other. We're all in this together, and there are ahas that open up as we hear. Oh yeah, well maybe well actually I had that, or that. Yeah. Anybody want to share your conscious sun? Let's just start with conscious sun, or it could be conscious earth, either one, that felt like that is not allowed. With the earth, it would be the support. I don't feel the support of that gate. Don't feel that, right? That I'm not, that there's something happening that's not allowing that. And it will look like it's, typically it will look like it's outside of us. It could show up inside, but typically it will look like childhood wound, or someone not valuing us, or any. Yeah, Hilda.
Um, my conscious sun is, in fact, it's a bit weird for me. It's a bit because my conscious sun is in 40 and my conscious earth is in 37. So it's just the other way around. So I was the whole time mixed up. But something that's coming up for me is about the 40, the aloneness, that one way or another, I always have to give like a kind of explanation to take care of myself. And I know it has to do with earlier times, but it's really difficult to just say, I'm going to take care of myself. It's always with an explanation.
So that's fascinating, right? To have your conscious sun in the gate of aloneness.
27.
That's 40.
40.
That's, yeah, that's the restoration. That's taking care of oneself. And then the conscious earth in friendship. And what is Hilda's profile? So for those of you who have studied profiles, the 2 is kind of the gate of aloneness, kind of like being a hermit, being on your own. And the 4 is friendship, connection. So there's a theme, a leitmotif in your chart, right? Of, yeah, and the feeling like it's not okay, like that's who you are. That's what you're bringing, and somehow you have to justify it. You have to justify who you are.
As a part of the woundedness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Yeah. So the ability to express that freely would be that would eliminate. You have a wound around that, right? You don't feel that you have the right to just express, this is for me, this is what I'm doing. It has to be explained, or it has to be even to yourself, perhaps. But so the freedom for you is to see what that distortion is in the field that has you unable to represent yourself primarily and first, because it's from that place that you, in fact, give your gift to the world. So that's a big shift for you, and it's important. It's important for everybody to come to what I call being on your own behalf. But for you, it's clearly a core piece, a core place where a wound occurred and you got you got put off from representing yourself easily. And so that what it feels like for you is that you always have to explain if you need time for yourself, or you have to explain what you want to do, right? And so the healing of that wound gives you the presence and the agency. I am here on my own behalf, expressing from that place, you will be a blessing to the world. The distortion often for us with our wounding is that in order to be a good person or in order to be accepted, we have to be a certain way for the others. And one of my favorite stories from Ramana Maharshi, when one of his devotees said, "But Master, in your Dharma talk, you didn't mention the others." And Ramana said, "There are no others." Right? So if it doesn't happen here, it ain't happening. Yeah.
So this comes back to that quantum. Hi, Kelly, Ruby, and Karina. Comes back to that discussion of the quantum field.
That's right. Exactly.
Right?
That's right.
So
yeah.
To imagine, Hilda, for a moment, that I mean, there's different ways we can play with this, right? We can do the 6 steps on it. That would be one way. Another way is to go directly to the experience, give yourself in this moment, just for the moment, the experience of what would that feel like? Could you let yourself feel what would that feel like if you didn't have to justify?
Right.
What happens if you don't have to justify? What
Explain, justify? No.
What shifts in your world?
It would give a lot of freedom.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a different frequency that when you come to be on your own behalf, and this goes for everybody's, whatever the gate is, then you are actually playing your part in a quantum reality, and you're no longer seeing through the distortion lens of I don't matter. Some version of that is what got installed with the early experience. And so now you're participating with a sense of connection on your own behalf to reality, rather than having to explain, justify, or to protect yourself, or even to protect others. So it's a huge shift in the way your reality shows up for you as viewed. Now you're viewing it through a different lens. So appears. The world appears different because the creative power of how we see, how we view things, the creative power is, this is what we haven't registered. Believing that there's an objective material world that we have to impact in a way, looking like a partner or a child or whatever, is the distortion field, right? Because when we start to view it clearly, there's no separation. And from that place, we are participating, offering the gift that we incarnated with, which we know as our human design, which is the way that we express. So it's that's the phenomenon of understanding as viewed, so appears. Right now, our view is distorted by the lens of our woundedness. And so as we view anything, it's going to look like I have to justify, I have to explain. Nobody's going to understand. But as we come home to ourselves, then that lens clears, or it falls away, we might say. And as viewed, this is my reality. Now it appears that I am supported in my authentic expression on my own behalf. And that's the power of the gift to the collective.
Yeah, I want to speak to that for a minute because I keep coming back to why are we doing this? Why does it matter? So you cleaning this up, we could say, you deconditioning this, whatever languaging you want to use, you taking this on as, oh, this is what I came to bring,
Right.
and owning it and claiming it, you changed the world by that. You know, we can think it's selfish, we can have all the judgments about it, but you actually being the sun that is shining that light, you show all of us the possibility of that. You're the leader, you're the teacher of bringing your attention particles back to yourself, basically, being on your own behalf. You become the starlight, the sunlight for that by living it, by being it unabashedly. It's big. It's such a big gift to actually allow our designs to have their full life. And our minds sometimes can't wrap around it.
No.
Because it's not how we're indoctrinated.
The collective conditioning is to put others first. And the distortion that creates is an imbalance. And what it will tend to do is it'll lean toward being victim. It'll lean toward the experience of feeling like you're being imposed on. So it's we come home to ourselves as cause in the matter. And from that place, we can behave, speak, act in clarity, right? It's a reality changer.
And this is what you're pointing to is the 2027 shift. Coming back into individual circuitry, coming back to ourselves rather than going out to that tribal, I'll give you this if you give me that I'm transactional, tribal transactional for our safety. Instead, we're coming back to this, and we don't know how it's going to work, really. I don't think our brains can quite comprehend what this is going to look like. I think it triggers safety issues, but I think there's an ultimate,
Yes.
what Pali talks about, there's an ultimate safety in being on our own behalf and coming home to ourselves. And your son in 40 is like the hallmark of that, is like, you are a leader, and this is your leader. Part of your leadership is living that fully, clearing any of the distortion lens to trying to dumb down that light. Can you tell us anything about what you're experiencing here? Or we just have said a lot and put a lot into the field.
Yeah, I was just thinking of my husband, who has more difficulties with me being at home, and more of financial reasons. And will you earn enough money when you're not working? So it's not always easy to really stand in that. That was a thing that came up. And also the fact that it's tribal, energy. So it's also for the tribe good to take care of myself. And that's a bit weird. I'm hearing what you're saying, but it still has to integrate.
Right.
Yeah.
It is a leap. It is a shift. It's a perceptual shift. And the collective conditioning, like I said, and this particular version in your own personal experience reinforces the collective conditioning that we're here on behalf of others. So it's a monumental shift, and it just requires always putting more light. If the feeling of being triggered or discomfort, at least to acknowledge, put some light on, that's what's going on. You're being pulled back into the collective conditioning and the tribal conditioning, right? It's and that sense of yourself can come about by noticing what's going on, because now you have here's me, I am here now, and this is what's happening. So that distinction can give you a sense of autonomy here. I don't know if that makes sense.
I mean, there's so many, it's just so fascinating to me. You've got that 2-4 and that 40-37. I'm just like, with that. Like, but if I think it again in terms of awakening or I think of quantum, when we come back, there is that fear, the husband, like I'm not going to make money, he's going to be upset, I'm not going to show up in some way he needs me to. But when we really come back here, it's like we're networked into the whole. It's like the oneness, right? We're all one. We look like separate human design body graphs, but we're really not. But when you come back, it's like when you're on your own behalf, and Polly has really taught me this, that is the benefit
To the whole.
to the whole.
Right. That is a higher frequency. So that is a part of how reality shows up, right? We think that when we are caught in our adaptive behaviors, like being considerate, overly considerate, or taking into account the tribe, say in this case, we think that that's the way that we are of benefit. But the way we're actually of benefit is to live freely out of our design, because that's what we came to bring. And when we're contributing that, then we're contributing to a larger possibility for everybody. The fact that they may not recognize it in the moment is the difficulty, right? That's the
Karina, yeah, I was going to ask if there's any questions. Karina.
I just have a little question on the being on our own behalf. As a projector, my understanding is that it's about others. But is that I'm confusing things, because of course it still must mean that I need to act on my own behalf, but my vision is outward focused on others. Could you just
You have a gift, right? You have a natural capacity and gift to recognize others and what's happening around you. The task is to be with what feels good inside of you.
Okay.
Right? That's the core of the projectors. Like, how does this feel? So you're not at the service of, you're not a servant to what you're observing.
Okay. Yeah.
in
Yeah,
order in order not to be, Karina, you'll have to get in touch with what's true for you. And this is sometimes it appears, just as you're describing, it appears to some degree conflictual, but the reality is that when you're in touch with what's good for you, your ability to express, to function as the projector, remember, our human design is the way in which we operate. It's not who we are. And so coming to be in clarity around your design is from a higher place of your true nature. Awake awareness. I am aware and I have this human design, this body mind unit to operate through. So we start to have some less, we have more traction with the perspective of awareness. Makes sense?
Yeah, Karina's nodding her head.
Oh, okay.
Hilda's nodding her head. There's some head nods.
Good.
Any other questions arising around this piece with Hilda, or a desire to look at your own sun or earth? Yeah, Roxanne.
Yeah, it just brought up a curiosity for me. My son is in 39, the gate of provocation, and I can see how that's expressed itself as an adult, but I'm just wondering how as a wee one that may have shown up and how I may have gotten conditioned or traumatized or something. Any thoughts anybody has would be appreciated.
Well, I know enough about your story, right?
Yeah.
In my mind, when I think of you, Roxanne, I always think about that early experience you had of being uh, held down and tickled, right? Which is not an uncommon experience for children, because oftentimes the only way that, in quotes, men know to relate to children is in that kind of teasing, tickling way. So I suspect that experience was for sure. I know that experience to be a part of your early wounding. But I suspect that there are other incidences that happened early for you where you felt the reactive thing that seemed to come towards you when you expressed. I don't know anything in particular that way with you, but I suspect it's available to you, the ways in which you were just expressing from a natural place, and then it
Mhm.
seemed to get a reaction or some kind of
Yeah.
unexpected
Right. Yeah,
response.
reaction, or I was shut down or
Yep,
mocked. Okay.
exactly.
Yeah, I'm seeing it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
So if we think of, again, we've got our profiles up. Those of you who do, please go ahead and rename yourselves with your profile and your type. If, Roxanne, so and I know we haven't studied the profiles, but I'm going to start weaving them in, and you'll just start getting it like you were in a French class and you're hearing the language being spoken. So your provocation is in gate 1, right? So it's like
That's where our son is.
her son is in it's in 39.1. So because she's a 1-3 profile.
Mm-hmm.
So you're here to investigate and learn about how to be provocative in a skillful way, how to use that power, that sun power, not to burn people, not to overwhelm them, not to, shame them or destroy them, right? But how to actually use it for awakening, we could say. You're nodding your head, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So then you could, if we're always looking to see, where am I conditioned? Where am I not living this, allowing this, the full life of this, right? So we look to our triggers. What lens am I looking through? When I see the word provocation, do I judge myself? Do I think something's wrong? Like, oh my God, my greatest energy is provocation. I don't know. Maybe you like that. Maybe that's you laughing. Maybe it's totally delightful for you, right? So and this is our son, what's our relationship to our son, right? Our big energy, what's our relationship to the energy that we are consistently emanating? Can we be in alignment with that? Can we understand the height, like Polly's pointing to, the higher frequency of that? Or are we, from a wounded place, living out a distortion field with that energy? Mm-hmm. That's the inquiry that we invite ourselves into. Any questions anybody has with that? Are we making sense here? Yeah, Deborah says yes. Yeah, Eloisa.
That was really good, because I also think about, like, what if your son is in the gate of provocation? Like, Roxanne and I have been partners before. Like, what would that feel like? And hearing what Polly just said a little while ago is to realize that you are on the cause of your life. You are, so be on your behalf, but also know that you are on the cause of that. And I think about children and how they have a narcissistic tendencies. They do think that it's all about them already, you know, and putting that together with the gate of provocation and wondering, you're at the cause of maybe, but you expect to be separate. you expect it, and because I'm looking at the gene keys, and the gift is dynamism. And so maybe the issue is not being aware of, yes, there's the provocation, but there's also the other part of it. It's like there isn't just my side of the story. There's the both sides of the story. There's a provocation, and then how that affects the other person. And maybe as children we don't have the other reference, and that becomes part of the wounding.
Inevitably, right? That's what Polly keeps saying. The wounding is inevitable. And if you listen to the Paul Levy video from yesterday, he's really clear that that wounding is part of the medicine. It's the distortion and it's the medicine. And Polly says, yeah, find your triggers.
Yeah.
Find your triggers, because that's where we come to freedom. We liberate those into freedom.
But you're exactly right, Eloise. It's like the experience of the child, because actually the child believes that they are everything. And so if the parents are fighting, even for an infant, there's a kind of attention particles going out, and the unconscious and unexpressed, because there's no language there, sense of it's my fault. In a way, it can be very subtle, but because the child is, as you pointed to, narcissistic, and there's a way in which the child is correct, that the whole world is arising in response reaction to them, which that part's not true, but that's what it's experienced as. And so we're externally referenced, so we're trying to have a certain kind of impact, or we're trying to get something from there, or trying to avoid being seen a certain way. And so now we are, instead of being present here, like what was her son? The feeling fully present here as the one I am on my own behalf. I am alert to measuring, noticing what's going on out there, and adjusting my expression, my behavior based on that, when in fact that is a projection through the distortion field of my woundedness.
So
It's a crazy.
So in a way, you're trying to let your sun shine from what you're seeing out there.
That's right.
Rather than letting it arise
That's
from
right.
you.
Inevitably out there, because that's the incarnational experience, right? We actually incarnate into the idea that there's an out there. So it's game on at that point.
So one of the things Paul talks about, and Polly talks about, but I didn't register it until Paul talked about it.
I get no respect.
It's just one of crazy, one of these awakening ideas. But from a quantum physics standpoint, he kind of backs in, and I know this from Buddhism too, but he kind of backs into this very clear understanding that this is a dream. We are living in a dream. We are creating the dream. We are in relationship to the dream, and we are all aspects of the dream. But it's literal. From a quantum science perspective, it's literal.
Because just like a nighttime dream, the only source for this reality for each one of us is our own consciousness, just like in a nighttime dream. And that's where you get that kind of radical perceptual shift that can leave you feeling a little unmoored, for sure.
So I don't know if that landed for anybody, but I just wanted to put that dropper in the waters, and we can let it go. But yeah.
I just wanted to restate what you guys just said. I feel like it was so powerful, and you guys just kind of like what you said about the 39 for Roxanne. What I heard you say about it is perhaps the provocation might have started from like within, like in a on my behalf, I am shining my inside, but then there's this interaction with the world, and now the provocation comes from that. like the initiation of the provocation or this act of provocation is coming from from what is happening and not from what was inside. So it becomes the attention particles. Like the issue with the provocation is not that it was provocation, it's where it's starting from. So now it's starting from what's happening and not from what's inside.
But it's happening from there because of the conclusion we drew about
Yeah,
someone's reaction.
Right.
yeah,
And
that was really good.
the protection
That's
we did
good.
in relationship to that.
That's an important insight. That's at the most radical understanding. That it's your dream, right? And you're dreaming that they're doing it to you. It's because you've projected being against yourself in whatever way, or being critical of yourself, or being self-judging. And so in that dream, you're going to have the actors out there doing it to you. Yeah.
Powerful. I thank you, Eloisa. You got that. Whew, let's just take a breath. Any other questions, or anyone who wants to look at your sun or your earth and explore it a little bit with us? Yeah, Karina.
Yeah, I would love to. My conscious sun is the gate of doubt, and my conscious earth is the gate of confusion. So those two, which is the 64. So yeah, I've been until recently very familiar with the gate of doubt, looking outside myself, I suppose, to see how I'm being received, and then doubting myself if it hasn't aligned. If yeah, I think that's maybe how I've been using that, as opposed to for the collective a power of discernment. Um, so I'm wondering to what extent that's still going on without me realizing it, because it's the water I've swum in for so long. Um, and then the Earth Gate 64. Well, I've heard it spoken to as imagination, isn't it? I mean, it's confusion in Gene Keys. It's confusion that goes up to imagination, illuminate into illumination. And
So
I don't.
before we go any further, I just want to pause. I just double check. Yeah, like your birthday is next week.
Mhm, mhm.
So
She's-
Tuesday. So you're coming into this
mhm.
energy, right?
Yeah,
You're coming into direct contact with this energy that was there at the time of your birth. That's
yeah,
63, 64.
yeah.
Who is this?
Karina, yeah.
Karina, what is in the Gene Keys, what is the gift of the gate of doubt?
Truth.
Truth, yeah.
And no, inquiry is the gift. Sorry, the city is truth.
Okay, so inquiry, and that's where you can practice. I mean, the fun, not the fun, but the gift, I should say, of the Gene Keys is that we can have a calibration of where we're expressing, right?
Mhm.
So that you can, um,
Yeah,
it was discernment. Truth is the city.
Truth,
yeah,
yeah, and then inquiry is the gift,
Yeah,
and doubt is
it is the
challenge or the
yeah, whatever. So it's, I think it's that's such a lightening out of the name. I find it so true in human design and the Gene Keys that the fundamental name will sort of like, um, what it will do is dampen our sense of that gate. But looking at the gift of it is always illuminating and helpful. And we will recognize that we're often at that place, right?
mhm,
We're often at that place.
so let's start with the sun,
mhm.
which you have said you feel pretty good with your doubt, right? So when you imagine, let's just everybody picture Karina and picture the times you've spent with her, if you're in partnership with her, like she comes into the field and she's questioning, she's looking, she's questioning, there's kind of like a sniffing out to see if is this true or is it not true? That fits, Karina? Yeah, so you're bringing the light of, is this make sense? And because it's logical energy, does this make sense or not? And if it doesn't make sense, I'm not buying it, guys. And where do we start? Let's really look and see, where do we start? Something like that. How am I doing here, Karina?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, absolutely. And if there's inconsistency, then I'm like, what's going on? Because that's, you said one thing and then there's this, and so I guess that's maybe how I'm using the inquiry. So then I don't know if it's an energy of doubt, but it's like, hey, these things don't match up, or let me find out more about this. My mind's constantly looking to understand. Yeah.
So I love this gate. That's one of my favorite. I love this gate because I feel like it makes me very smart. Like, you cannot pull wool over my eyes. You're not going to mess with me. You know, I
Yeah.
just feel like it's so smart. Again, we can't turn it on ourselves, right? That's where it becomes poison. So that could be one place where the sun is like burning you,
Mm.
right? You've turned that light,
Question myself. Yeah,
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 towards
yeah.
yourself, and it's like cancer. It becomes like,
Mm.
it's not healthy.
Mm.
Because we're not logical systems in that way,
Mhm.
right? We're quantum. We're not linear. We're not in that field like that. So that could be a place for you to look for triggers, of look for places where do you doubt, where do you doubt yourself?
Yeah.
Make a list of all the different ways you doubt yourself. Go back, use the 6 steps. It's about me. I'm doubting myself. It's about me. It gets tricky here, right? It's a little tricky. You can't use blame and shame with that. Go
Mhm.
back to the earliest memory of when you doubted yourself. See
Mhm.
what the interaction was. Something happened outside of you that you drew a conclusion,
Mhm.
and turn that energy against yourself, right? That is bright, blazing energy, and you turned it against yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And see the truth. See the truth that you used to cover, what were you covering up with your conclusion? How were you blocking the light of you shining, right, with your conclusion? How were you stopping your light? How were you shamed by your light? How were you not allowed to have that?
Mhm.
How does this feel when we talk about it this way?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot more sense. And I can see how that would have happened in my childhood, being told to keep quiet and not ask so many questions, or being clever, trying to be clever, or something like that, and therefore dumbed down a bit. Mm, mhm,
Yeah, so here you are, a projector,
mhm,
right? You're not supposed to speak until you're invited, and you undoubtedly are. So I just lost my clock. You undoubtedly are speaking out and sharing your opinions, and getting shut down and drawing conclusions about yourself, doubting yourself,
mhm.
right? So we want to clean that up.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so big smile there. I'm saying this out
Good.
loud so that you
Thank
can see.
you.
Big smile there.
Good.
Heidi, you have a question here on this?
Well, yeah, a little, you can go there or not, but I have the opposite. Like next week is my half birthday, and I have the 64, and my conscious sun is in 64, and my conscious earth is in 63. And I
Yeah.
just wondered how that might be different.
Okay, so let's do the 63 Earth with you, and then come back to your 64 Earth and 64 Sun. So 63 Earth. So can you see how your doubt is a support, can be a support? That logical mind of yours, that like, is this gonna work? Is this, when you have a really crystal clear, you can have a really crystal clear mind.
As long as I'm not directing it at myself, the doubt.
Yeah, right. So can you see how you take away your earth? You take away your ground when you direct it towards yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you don't have clarity about what to do. You go to confusion, right? These two kind of can work together that way. But how it ungrounds you when you're not aligned with the doubt of the earth. It's not as being a support for you. It's being called into question. Your doubt is being called into question.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It helps with how I merge with people. When I merge with people, I lose that discretion,
Yeah.
that differentiation.
You're not on your own behalf with the earth supporting you. That 63 is a support. Think of it. It is your support. So that's doubt, that's inquiry, that's what was that gift of that one, Karina?
Truth.
Truth.
Inquiry and honesty is truth.
Truth
Inquiry
is
is
your
truth.
ground. Truth is in the highest frequency, truth is your ground. Not your stories, not what you make up, but to use the 6 steps to go back and see where did I doubt myself? Where did I get ungrounded? Go back and remember that and see if you can, peel back to those what was the early conclusion? Are you having a thought? No. Is that good, Heidi? Okay, so and maybe next week you can tell us what your experience is with those shifted, how that 63 hitting your sun, just like with Hilda, how that 63 hitting your sun is impacting your earth.
You mean next week?
Yeah, when the sun changes, when the transits change and the sun is in 63,
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
it's
that's
going to be in relation to your earth.
right.
So just what happens, just journal, just be curious to see what gets lit up there.
Mhm. Mhm.
So let's go to the 64, Karina. So
Mhm.
you're grounded. What is the gift in the city of the 64?
Imagination is the gift, and city is illumination.
Okay.
64. Mm-hmm.
So that 64 for everybody is on the opposite side of the 63. And it's the right brain. And it's kind of very quantumish-y, right? It's very quantumish-y. It's like symbols. It's the past, which is not so quantum, but it is downloads that come through, right? And they come through whole. It's like seeing, I almost see it like, oh, my battery's getting low. Okay. If my battery goes off, I'm gonna turn on my phone. Actually, give me a second. I have to get under this table and get my phone that fell under. I'm gonna put my phone on. I forgot to bring my
It can come through
charger.
as a gestalt.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly.
I think I have that.
Yeah, you do. Okay, I'm just gonna come onto this call and so if you think, Karina, that when you go to confusion, that is actually for you. When you go to not understanding, when that logic isn't there for you, that there's something else beneath it
Mm-hmm.
that you can count on. And that even that right brain confusion supports, feeds, is a ground for the sun, that they're in a dynamic.
Well, the confusion certainly feeds the inquiry, because they definitely seem to, but I thought of them as exacerbating as opposed to supporting. So I like that new perspective.
Good.
So that would be there's got to be a trigger in there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Kelly. This is a new human design thing, new Zoom thing. I can't get the link. All right, I updated. All right. Kelly, can you just text me the link? Thank you. So Heidi, can you see how your son in 64, like you have a story that confusion is debilitating, doesn't allow you to go forward, is problematic for you, right? You kind of go to a false confusion, an adaptive behavior kind of confusion, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I go to an overwhelm that it's a very familiar place that has a collapse to it.
Right. That is not your son.
That's a trigger.
That's a trigger. This 64 has such a big picture view of the world, has all the past included in it, sees it all at once. All the pieces are there, not in a linear way, but in a holistic way. It's really magical. That 64 is really magical. If you have an idea, you should know what to do next. It's going to cloud the 64. If you're trying to look through the lens of the 63, it's going to be problematic. So if you imagine you're walking around in the world and your sun rays of your being are emanating the high frequency of the 64.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. I like that. I appreciate that view of myself and my experience with holding that instead of it being problematic.
So for a moment, I want everyone just to put your hands on your heart and picture your sun and the gate that your son is in, and picture that you're walking around in the world with this sun energy unimpeded. Just allowing it its life, its full life. Like you are the source of that frequency of that gate in that line. We could throw the line in if that's where you are. And as you're staying with this, picture the center that gate is coming off of. And notice if it's open or defined. Notice if that gate is connected to a channel or not. And now notice if there's anything, if you let yourself for a moment in full awareness, not in identification, but full awareness, let yourself see in this moment of your life where that is not the case, where you are impeding that light. What are the triggers? What are you looking outside of yourself to tell you to dim down that light, or not okay with that light, or should be different, that light. And welcome that knowledge. We're standing in awareness, looking and seeing, oh, just this is a no judgment field. It's just a witnessing field of what's impeding my light. Can I let myself see where I would box my sun up in some way? I would put my sun in a metal box, or just with little slats of light that could come out. And the way Polly talks about it to me, that's been so poignant, is to feel that there is a heartbreak when we are not living that light. There is a heartbreak that is at the source of that. And a whole world of adaptive behaviors to not feel that heartbreak. So just to feel compassion for whatever ways we have dimmed our light and used others as the reason for that. And just taking a moment just to feel, what are you taking away here? What's being touched? What's being awakened for you? What's coming into your awareness? Is there something that's calling for you to work with, or welcome, or be in relationship to? And I'd like to, if you guys are okay with it, I'd like to just do a 30-second relational presence check-in to see what's arising in this story for you. Would you guys be okay with that? Would that be all right? Just so we could have everybody's voice here. And if there's nothing that's coming up for you, then you can sit in silence. That's perfectly fine too. But just to hear what's percolating. Let me pull the timer here. I got really hot with that little meditation. I think my son is like telling me something here. Gosh. All right. Is there someone who would like to begin? And then I think I'll just call people just for timing. What's being touched? What's waking up here? Yeah, Barbara.
I had a huge aha during this conversation about a childhood wound and a story I created out of